Thank you. Good report. Okay, we're going to move to our next agenda item. And thank you for being here today. It looks like they're leaving, which is fine. They've got plenty to do. We're going to our general consent calendar, and this is the time where I'll see if board members need to poll any items and need to go into to discussion. I know we do have a housekeeping item that's a little bit unique that's in here. Member Moss. And my computer went this way.
Chair, are we on item 1 then? 5.1 for contracts and agreements?
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. I'm going to wait. I've got something to pull from.
I think you're 5.3.
Correct.
So we're going to
Right.
pull 5.3.
5.3, the last one on Brigham Young University, I'd like to pull.
Okay.
Can I briefly?
Well, hang on one sec.
Okay.
Member Klein?
Yes, I'd like to pull, I'd also like to pull number 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7.
5.5 and 5.7.
And 6, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
Is all of 3 pulled, or is just the BYU portion? It pulls the whole.
All of 5.3.
All of 3.
But then
Okay.
we'll come back. We'll see what specifically is in there. So right now, I have 5.3, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7 pulled. Anything else? Vice Chair Davis?
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
I move that the board approves the consent calendar minus 5.3,
3.
5, 6, and 7.
I have a motion and discussion. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, the motion for the board is to approve the consent calendar with items 5.3, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7 pulled. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes. Member Moss, do you want to speak to 5.3?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I requested to pull this because the contract that is up for approval and consent is also the subject of a motion for approval of expenditure of discretionary funds for the purpose that is being, to which the contract is aimed. So this is a retention of a third party to do some data review, data sharing review in compliance with federal and state law and data security. So prior to approving that, we can't approve the contract. So I intend to hold it until after the Finance Committee report, if I'm getting that right, Deputy Jones? All right. Thank you, Chair. And I'll just come back for approval after that if that.
So do you have any question or do you have a motion?
Well, do I need to postpone it formally to that, or can I just move to conditionally have it approved depending on the approval of the expenditure after finance? What's the best?
So it would be appropriate, if you're speaking specific, you can table it, or you can make a motion that you approve the Brigham Young contract contingent upon approval of agenda item 12.5.
So moved. Can I adopt?
Well,
I'll state it.
This
I
is
move.
housekeeping, but
Yeah.
It would say that the board approved the BYU
Item.
contract contingent upon approval of agenda item 12.5.
Right.
Approval of board discretionary funds for data research scheduled later in the meeting. That would put it.
That sounds
that-
right.
If it's
I
a contract,
move.
you can move it forward,
Yeah.
but it puts it at risk when that item comes up. So
Right. So I move that we approve the BOU contract listed as item number 13 conditioned upon approval of the use of expenditure, use of discretionary funds in item number 12.5 in the finance report this afternoon.
Is there a second? Second? You want to speak any more to it?
No, I think I explained it. Basically, this was a recommendation from another board member that came into finance. We reviewed and approved and put it on the finance agenda for approval because it's a fast-acting item. They reached out. It was a single-source contract, as Deputy Jones explained. That was posted. Nobody else could take the contract, and so they've gone ahead and arranged terms with BYU, but the amount would need to be approved when we get to that point later this afternoon.
Okay, discussion, thank you. Discussion to the motion we have. Member Bear?
I was a little baffled about which one. Now you said BYU, so now I get it. Which one? But I hope when we have that subsequent or future discussion, you can explain a little bit more about what's the substance of the contract. That'd
Yeah.
be helpful for me, and didn't read these all as carefully as some of you did. So I would love to know more about it and know why you support it or why you object to it. A little more explanation. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Member Norton?
And that's exactly why I would like to have a substitute motion that we table this until we have that discussion this afternoon. I think we're maybe putting the cart before the horse right now.
It's just housekeeping. We get there with the substitute motion too. So is there a second to the substitute? You want to speak any more
No, I
to
think
the
I said
substitute?
mine.
I have a motion to table this till this afternoon. Any further discussion to the motion to table? Member Earl?
When you say table, is it tabling that item or tabling that section?
That particular item.
Okay.
So,
Chair, I'm fine with that. My attempt was to tie the cart to the horse. And if the horse goes, it drags the cart. This would detach the cart from the horse. And if the horse good to go, then we'll attach the cart.
we still get to the same place.
Either way,
So-
we're good.
Okay. So
We're-
the motion
we're
to
fine.
table this is this afternoon's discussion in finance, which is removing the item is 5. I'm not seeing it on my numbered as I'm trying to pull it out. Well, it's the USBE 230007 CT contract. So basically, that's going to pull it out of the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Is there anything else you want to speak to 5.3? Want to speak to 5.3, Member Earl?
Yeah, I'd like to divide the other items on there, 1, 2, and 10. Vote on these separate from the other contracts. And so there's,
They're not.
well, there are on your, well, okay.
Mine are not.
If you
mine
go
are
on
not
the
numbered.
approval,
So-
the
so-
board approval,
So in that
agreements?
item, the first is,
What's it about?
state cooperative contract change order, and it's
but it's labeled,
sorry, I have to go
so
back
you want
out.
to table the SHI?
No, I don't want to table it. I'd like
Or
us
no,
to,
no, you want to,
Pull it out.
you want to pull it
I want to
out.
divide the
So
vote.
you want to divide
So is it ending in 75 or ending in 95?
the one that
me a
ends with
second.
75,
So the,
95,
yes,
and what's the other one?
hold on just one second. Sorry, so it would be DO3, I'm looking at mine, 400, and then the quote that ends in 9675, the quote that ends in 4895, I'm going to have to add one to it because I didn't have one on there. And then at the bottom, the quote that ends in 13. So those
So it's a
four items.
303, 400, then 23 and a whole bunch of zeros and ends with the 13.
Down at the
The
bottom.
second to the bottom.
Second to the bottom.
There's three then, or four?
There are four, I apologize. Let me do this one more time.
One.
So the motion is to divide everything else that's left, less that,
Yep,
the Brigham Young University one, to separate everything from.
To
the one
divide,
that ended
yeah,
with
to vote
75,
separately.
95, and the one that ended with 13.
there's like,
So we have a motion to divide. Did we get a second?
I'll second it.
Member Klein's a second. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none. All in favor to divide? Say aye. Those opposed?
No.
The ayes, raise your hand to be called out. So we have Member Earl, Member Hart, Member Hymas, Member Hutchings, Member Klein, Member Booth, Member Moss, Belknap, so that's 8. Okay. Moss. Matt. Okay, motion passes. Any, have a motion, do you have a motion or a question, Member Earl?
yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the four items that were listed. I don't know
Pass
how you-
everything except the one that ended in 75, 95, and 13? Or you want to pass those three?
No, I'd like to pass those through, the ones that were identified.
The one,
So would you like me to read those again? So
Okay.
DO 3, 400. I don't know if I need to read the whole
so
thing.
I'll call them out by
Okay.
contract
Yep,
number. So your motion is to approve.
that's what I. Here they are. Oh, let me get my glasses on.
Oh, that's handy, thank you.
So it'd be 2, 3, 4, and 12.
The item is 3.
It would be numbers 2, 3, 4, and 12.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 12. So the motion is to approve 3, 4, and 12. Can you guys see those numbers?
2,
And 2.
4, 12.
Divide. Divided out was according to this. 4 and 12. Correct? So where did 2 come in? Somebody. So there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Without objection, we're going to include that in the divide. Anyone object? Oh. No objection to it. So your motion is approved. 3, 4. Second? Member Norton. Member Straight.
So by approving those, we're disapproving the others? I'm trying to,
No? No, they're just,
Okay.
they're subject to discussion.
Oh,
or
okay.
Somebody else can make a motion to it.
so what is it about those four that we want to pass? Because I'm not even sure I know what they are. I'm looking at,
Well, they've been in the consent calendar since the agenda, so as you look at the list of what's in the consent calendar, number 13 down there is
Yeah.
tabled.
right?
In the divide, everything else is still there, nothing's been added or deleted from our packet or anything, but in the divide, 2, 3, 4, 12 were separated. Or Earl wants to move those forward for approval. Best for other board direction or another motion. Earl,
So we'll find out the why later.
so the maker of the motion doesn't have to give a why.
That's fine.
And then you can,
But,
but you can find out the why if you make a motion to put something on the table.
right, okay.
So. Thank you, staff, for putting this up there. So the motion before the board right now is to approve item 2, 3, 4, and 12. Let's see any discussion to the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. So what not 5, 7, 8, and 11. More discussion on what's left in 5.3. We want to do anything with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Vice Chair Davis?
Well, I just have a question. If someone could help us to know ramifications if the rest of these are not approved?
If contracts want to speak, there's quite a list here to take one by one.
And Chair, could they also include if any of these are required in board rule or code?
Name, rank, serial number.
Yes, Adam Hurd, Director of Purchasing and Contracts for the board. So the question is, what are the ramifications of not passing the rest of the contracts?
That is a question.
And if any of them are required in board rule or code? Or fill those needs?
Yes, so I would need to review them again to see if any are required by code or rule at this time. I don't know that off the top of my head. But if they were not passed right now, then we would be unable to execute the contracts and move forward with the work with the vendors until the board approved them.
So I'm sure you're going to have support staff. Oh, there's support staff. It's going to speak to as many of them as possible. Bronston.
Jennifer Thronson, Director of Teaching and Learning, and have been working closely. This is related to the SB 127 bill that passed as to why we operated a new RFP process, had to do a substitute during that process because the law changed midstream during the RFP. And so these are the final products of the eligible. We had 13 vendors apply. These are the ones that were approved based on their alignment to the science of reading as well as their research base. Some of them have the research and some don't. So they are eligible to be used with some kids versus all kids. So happy to answer questions specifically. The process is the process, so Adam can definitely answer those questions. But from a content or kind of practices what the law says, happy to tell you lines 297, lines 317 through 19 in SB 127 do say curriculum is connected to the bill and the requirement of evidence-based for intervention and supplemental material, which is what these programs are, and therefore are required to meet that eligibility requirement to provide those services for kids.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up?
So, we are required to provide options like such as this? Is that what you're saying in the law?
So there is a software bill that has, like, we are given $12.6 million to curate software, and then SB 127 added the kind of designating qualities of that software moving forward as a curriculum.
May I follow up, Chair?
Yes.
So what process did we go through to choose these? We basically followed the criteria that was in SB 127?
So we used the RFP criteria, which included an alignment to science of reading as well as the evidence base to determine if they were a level 1 or a level 2 provider. SB 127 says for kids that are below or well below benchmark, they need to use evidence-based materials that have been shown to work. Some of these products have that evidence and some do not. So if you're at or above, you can use any of the products. If you're below or well below in your reading proficiency, then you are required to use materials that have been proven to work.
Last follow-up, Chair.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to ask those who are voting to not pass this through, do they have recommendations for other programs that better meet 127 or
We
our
don't have anything on the
responsibility?
table, so you're not, you
Just
not
make a
speak to
motion.
it, so you get something on the table. This is.
Well, I
this
guess
is-
I'm
this is kind of
seeking
an oddity.
information to decide if I'm going to make a motion.
Well, this is why this goes on the agenda, and I've got a question for Adam. Has anyone from the board reached out to you on this to try to get preliminary discussion or research or,
No, Chair.
okay, Jennifer? Is it
Board Member Moss has reached out to me
on a, on an item or one of?
On 13.
on the software.
On the software one. This is just really odd that we're in this position, but you gotta put something on the table or it's gonna die of lack of
Oh,
action.
well, then I'll
This
put
is-
something on the table.
So we're,
Okay, but here we go, I'm gonna get going here. In order, Member Klein.
Okay, so a couple questions. You mentioned the 12.6 million of software, that was in a different bill than SB 127?
Yes.
What bill was that?
I don't know the bill. It was years ago. It's been a decade that we've had this bill.
Oh, are they just now using the money from that bill?
No, we've always had
Okay.
software.
So-
What's changed with this bill is the requirements of who can use what software based on whether it works or not, or at least has been proven to work or not.
Okay, and then my understanding of SB 127, and obviously I haven't read it recently, was that this was to help fund early literacy coaches, not necessarily software. So do we need the coaches if it's all online, like
So
software?
The software is not funded in SB 127. SB 127 had about 18.6 million. 4.5 million of that is coaching, and there is a lot of other components in SB 127. Software is separate, funded separately from SB 127.
So are the literacy coaches helping kids run the software programs?
No, the literacy coaches are supporting teachers in effective instruction.
But it's the software that the kids are using.
No, it's reading instruction in general. It could be supporting teachers on looking at the data of how the kids performed on the software to provide targeted intervention instruction.
But the kids-
They're supporting teachers, not kids.
But the kids are learning on software, digital software to learn, to read, is
If the
that
school
correct?
chooses to use software, yes, it could be part
Okay.
of their program.
All right, last question. Howard Stevenson was here earlier, or spoke during public comment about, I think he said EISP reading software and his concerns. Is that something that's listed here, or is that something
That
totally
is
separate?
This program, early interactive software program, are these contracts.
Oh, so these are all under that EISP. So I'm trying to remember exactly what he said and what his concerns were and how they relate to this. Can you explain?
I think his concern was that people have had programs that they've been using, and changing this rapidly is hard. As you all know, when legislation happens, we get to roll with it as quickly as it is expected to be executed. The bill passed in May and is expected to be implemented after May. And so people are having to change their software program. So in his school community, they used a particular program. They want to continue using it for all students. That program does not have the evidence base to suggest it works for all kids, or at least has the effect size required to be used for well below and below students. And therefore, his school is not eligible to use that product for all students, given its lack of evidence at this time.
Okay, so are any of these currently being used, or are these
Yes.
all new?
Nope, 4 of the 5 are current and 1 is new.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hanson.
Motion to approve all the remaining contracts on 5.3.
second.
We have a motion to approve the remaining contracts, which are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 on this list. We have a second. You want to speak to your motion?
I just, I think staff has articulated these are required under statute. We've gone through an RFP process, so we've followed the procedures that need to be followed to get these on the agenda. If there are reasons that folks want to pull particular contracts, they could certainly try to divide this, but we need to move things forward.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion to the motion. You have more? Is your light on for more?
Yes. So I won't be voting for this specifically because these contracts are all companies that have embedded social emotional learning into the software.
Okay, motion, we're going to vote on this. Motion for the board is that the board approve the contracts listed in the consent calendar. I'm going to be specific to this list, which is item 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Got 2 noes, correct? Okay, the motion passes. We have 3 other items pulled from our consent calendar. Member Klein, did you want to take, I mean, you pulled them, do you want to take 5.5 first, or do you have a particular order that you want to ask questions, or?
No, I don't need to speak to them. I'm just a no vote on them.
Okay. Member Norton, your light's on.
Yeah, I just have a question about on what I have on my paper was item 15, the Ant Flow Corporation. Has that already been passed? Where are we with that?
On which?
Okay.
Yeah, we're out of contracts now.
Okay.
So were all of them passed, though?
On the general consent calendar, we're
Okay.
past the contract side.
Okay.
We've got some people who will answer the question really fast. But we have, what is on it, left on our consent calendar is 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7. Yes, so what's the?
All the contracts
That is correct.
until later?
And that's for later.
On the record?
Yeah. I think we're. 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7 were all action items, not information. Want to address or have any questions on those, or?
I've
try
got
to
one.
move
Am
them
I not
forward?
showing up on your,
What's that?
I've got a question. No, because your light's not. Oh, but I couldn't see that. Oh, well, see, it's not
Will
my,
you borrow?
I'll come over to Sybil. At first I was just feeling ignored. Now I'm understanding.
Yeah. It's showing.
Okay.
Sounds like you're on, Carol.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
My light's just maybe battery's out.
It's the,
To clarify on the contracts.
hang on one sec.
Sorry, I apologize. Looking at the backup that we had in Civic Clerk, it goes, I mean, there's 19 or 20 different contracts, but the one that we had on the board did not reflect that number of contracts. Just concerned that there are contracts that should have been passed that weren't
Go ahead.
in that item. I don't believe so. Just looking at the agenda memo for 5.3.
Yeah, there's a review piece and an approve.
Okay. Maybe we got the wrong ones. Those are the approves and the others were just, hang on a second.
Okay, one sec.
Sorry,
So the
between
question is, I believe, did we address every contract that was up for approval?
Understood. Okay, yeah, the
Yes or
document
no?
we have up is just the review one. Got it. Thank
And
you.
the rest were reviewed. So I think we're good. But a good question. Let's
Sorry.
not
No.
leave any stone unturned.
Yeah, got it.
So we're, I'm on the actionable side. Member Lear.
And I want to be receptive to what other people's concerns are, but I participated in 2 full days of discussing POPs programs with the individual organizations who took the time to come in, gave a very thorough, very prepared explanation for what their programs do, for what they do for schools, how many students they serve, and the idea being that they have to do this on a regular basis, and I don't know why we would not approve them. They were excellent. There was one slight program with one of the 25 programs, and I may be exaggerating just a little for effect, but
Member Lear, hang on one second. We're speaking maybe to a motion. There's not a motion on the table to
Oh.
approve anything.
I thought I
So
said
before we
I
talk
moved.
to it, you gotta put it on a
Then I
table.
move that we approve items 5, 6, and 7, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7. Sorry, I just wanted, I
Okay,
was so
well,
excited.
let's get it
about
on the
the
table.
explanation.
We're okay. We're all right. We're just all one group. We work together here.
Jenny's
Is there a
catching. If
second?
Jenny's here, it's catching, you know?
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Member Cannon, or Plenty? Now, do you want to?
And I mostly spoke to it. I mostly spoke to it. I just can't see why we would delay this. And if there's some good reason, I would appreciate hearing that so that if there's some communist plot in one of them, I don't know that. And so
Okay.
I'd love to hear that.
Okay.
But I personally was involved and I thought they were fabulous, and why are we delaying?
Okay.
So, there you go.
All right, so we have a motion, a second, and you spoke to the motion, discussion to the motion. Seeing none, we'll see if it passes. All those in favor of approving out of the consent calendar 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. You're not going to get. Okay, all right. All right, so we're just moving along. Thank you for putting it on the table.